Back here on CBS Sports HQ, back here with Matt Norlander, and there has never, ever been a perfect bracket in NCAA tournament history. But we try and try every year because it's awesome and it's fun and it's the best thing to do at this time of the year is fill out a bracket and see if you can beat your buddies. See if you can win an office pool. See if you can win a little money. See if you can have a little fun. See if you can have bragging rights. Matt is here to help you. Fill out your bracket. We're going to go all the way to the Elite Eight. Then you'll pick your Final Four and your national championship prediction. Let's start in the South where Auburn is the #1 seed.
Obviously, I'm going to have Auburn moving along. By the way, always a thrill, but I hate myself doing this every year so quickly after the bracket comes out. Not a perfect world. Let's get it moving here. I'm going to take Creighton over Louisville. That is a really tight one, but give me Ryan Kalkbrenner to get it done. Let's move on down the bracket and let's get to some chaos right away. Okay, UC San Diego over Michigan. Let's go.
Whoa.
Really good team, top 40. Yeah, Tritons, fork up. Forky out, let's go. Into the second round. Forking into the second round. I will also take Yale to upset Texas A&M because A&M is not a reliable shooting team and actually like Yale's propensity to maybe shut down Wade Taylor IV. Let's keep it moving down. I will go San Diego State to beat UNC and then to beat Ole Miss. Almost every single tournament, we have a team that goes to Dayton and wind up playing at least in the second round. I will also have Iowa State getting past Lipscomb. Moving on to the bottom part of the bracket here, I will go with the Lobos of New Mexico and Richard Pitino with Donovan Dent to get past Marquette in a 10-7 upset, and Michigan State not to have too much of an issue with Bryant overall. So those are the teams moving into the second round of the South region. If we go back up to the top here, I've got Auburn playing against Creighton. I think there's a lot of fun and a lot of potential in this matchup. Ryan Kalkbrenner is a heck of a player. It's not just him, though. I will have Auburn moving on, but that smells like a potential second round game with a 1 seed that could have some closeness to it. I will have UC San Diego in its first season ever having eligibility to make the tournament, getting to the Sweet 16. You heard me correctly there. Bottom half. I'll go with the clones. I'll go with TJ Otzelberger's team, no Keyshawn Gilbert. I still think they'll have enough to get past San Diego State. And then Tom Izzo against Richard Pitino. Give me Sparty to get it done there. So you have Michigan State against Iowa State. Both those teams were in the Maui Invitational earlier this season. In the Sweet 16, I like Auburn to get past UC San Diego. No, I am not that gutsy nor that stupid. And then I will have Michigan State moving along past Iowa State to set up an Auburn-Michigan State. Both of those teams were also in the Maui Invitational back in November, the most loaded Maui field ever.
All right, down to the Elite Eight there in the South. Now let's head to the West region where 3 of the 6 30-win teams reside in the West. Florida, the #1 seed, St. John's, and Drake. Take us through what I am calling the region of death.
Yeah, I'm calling it the region of Hall of Famers because they're all over this bracket. I will go with Florida to get past Norfolk State. Shouldn't have too much of an issue there at the top of this West region. I also think that UConn against Oklahoma, I'm not going to pick against Dan Hurley and the Huskies to lose a game right away. I'm just not going to do it. Give me the Huskies to move along there in Raleigh and get to the weekend. Moving down, I will have Colorado State getting it done against Memphis. That is a super tempting 12/5. Nick Clifford has been incredible. Give me the Rams to get it done. Now, the Terps, I think they get past the Lopes. They go ahead and they crawl into the second round, but don't have too much of an issue overall. Give me Maryland to face them. And now we're going to get even more double-digit love going in. I will take Drake and its 30-3 record to get past the Missouri Tigers and move along. Ben McCollum's a great coach. Bennett Sturts has a chance to have a huge moment here on this big stage. Texas Tech doesn't have any issue with UNCW. Red Raiders move along to the second round under Grant McCaslin. Bottom of the screen, Kansas plays Arkansas. I will be there in Providence on Thursday. I will take Kansas to get the job done. They've been inconsistent, so is Arkansas. And then I've got obviously St. John's getting past Omaha, setting up a matchup between
you had a
two Hall of
chance
Famers.
Of Coach Cal and Rick Pitino.
I know, but I am going to pick the game that I think is going to happen. I will take Kansas to get it done. Going back up to the top, we're going to go with Florida and UConn. I'm going to go with the Gators. I gotta take the Gators. They've been incredible. So UConn's quest for a three-peat ends right then and there in Raleigh. And then I will have Maryland getting past Colorado State, setting up a tremendous Sweet 16 affair in the West. And then on the bottom half, there's going to be chaos, folks. Give me Drake.
Wow.
It's Drake's year. No one thought it possible. Drake's going to get it done. Drake moves along. St. John's gets past Kansas, which means if and when this happens, the streak will continue. Kansas has never made the Sweet 16 in a year in which it was picked preseason number 1. I've got that trend continuing. Back up at the top, Florida versus Maryland. You think Florida automatically? Great team? Here we go. 1 seed going down. Give me the Terps, the Crab 5, Derek Queen, Jacoby Gillespie. This isn't going to be a popular pick. It's a value pick, and that's why I'm going with it. And I will also go with St. John's to get past Drake, giving us a 2-4 matchup in the West Regional Final.
So Maryland and St. John's in the Elite 8 out of the West. What a region that is. It's going to be tough to navigate that. Now let's head to the East region where Duke is the top overall seed there. Expected to have Cooper Flagg back for the tournament, nursing that left ankle sprain. Let's get into the East region. Duke trying to get back to the Final Four.
Let's go. East region. I actually think, my expectation, I think Cooper Flagg will play in the first round.
Okay.
I think that's where we're going to be. Duke moves along, obviously without much resistance. Baylor is the more tempting pick here, but I'm going to go Mississippi State. I actually like them a lot. By the way, shouts to our incredible team here behind the scenes at CBS Sports HQ. I love this graphic presentation overall. You can really see the confidence and self-loathing on my face as I pick us through this bracket. I will go with Oregon to beat Liberty. I don't think Liberty has a chance, which means you know what to do, folks. Go with Liberty. I will take Arizona over Akron. I just like the way that Tommy Lloyd's roster stacks up against the Zips, although the Zips only 1 loss in the year 2025, but I'll go Arizona. BYU, VCU has the best potential, I think, of any 6-11 game on the board, and I'm including the 6-11 games we don't know will happen yet because of the first 4 matchups that have to be decided on Tuesday, Wednesday. But give me the Cougars there. Kevin Young's done a really nice job in year 1. Wisconsin over Montana without too much hesitation. On my end, we'll keep it scrolling down. I will take St. Mary's. You know what? I think St. Mary's is going to have a convincing win over Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's had a nice season, but I think that St. Mary's is a much better team, and they win without much doubt on the board. And then Bama to get past Robert Morris. Andy Toole's done a wonderful job there, getting Bobby Moe back into the tournament for the 2nd time in his 15-year career running that program. But I like Bama overall. We scoot on back to the top half of the bracket. Duke versus Mississippi State. I don't think it'll be too much of a trouble here. I think Duke moves along. Keep an eye, by the way, on Malik Brown. He's had a shoulder issue. What is his availability going to be? He's actually Duke's best all-around defender. I think his involvement actually will determine whether or not Duke can win a national championship. I have Arizona beating Oregon. I love this Pac-12 flavor in the 2nd round immediately there. Give me Wildcats over Ducks. On the bottom half, I will go with BYU over Wisconsin, primarily, although this game could be a race to 90. A lot of good offensive potential there. I will go with Saunders and co to get that done. St. Mary's and Bama, I will go with Alabama in this one. I was tempted to take St. Mary's, but I have other bigger plans in mind. Nate Oates' team gets it done. By the way, I'm doing this with the expectation that Grant Nelson will be pretty good to go. If we are to find out Monday, Tuesday that his situation is much more dire, then whatever, toss them out and we'll start over again. I will take Duke over Arizona in the Sweet 16. Just Duke and Arizona in the NCAA Tournament game gets the juices flowing. It's awesome. We love to see that. And I will take Alabama and its scoring over BYU. Maybe a game to 100. Let's go. Let's have a great one there. And then, folks, I'm going to go Alabama. I'm going to go Alabama over Duke once we get to the Final Four. But that is a tease. That is a tease for later in the show. I'll give you a little taste before we do the big old reveal.
A 1-2 matchup there in the East as Duke looks to get back to a Final Four. Alabama was in the Final Four just 1 year ago. Houston, a 1 seed for the 3rd season in a row. They're the #1 seed in the Midwest. Matt, you know I love the Cougars, and they've got a first-round matchup against the Cougars.
That's true. It is UH versus SUE, SIUE, SIU Eds versus Will. I've got Houston moving along without much resistance whatsoever. And then we get to Gonzaga versus Georgia. A battle of the Bulldogs going down. I like Gonzaga to get this done. I don't think they're going to have too much resistance against Georgia. They obviously rate much, much better in the metrics overall. Give me the Zags to move along. Bumping on down. These games are going to go down in Providence. I'll be there in person on Thursday to witness it. Clemson versus McNeese. You've got Brad Brownell, who has been rumored to maybe be the Indiana next coach. I don't think that's going to happen. I do think he's going to beat McNeese and Will Wade, who might be the next coach at NC State. We'll see on that. I like Clemson to get it done. And then Purdue High Point. I will take Purdue in this spot. I think Trey Coffin-Wren's going to have himself a nice game. Alan Huss has done a really good job. He's yet another coach who I think could be getting a serious look at other jobs over the next week or so. Go on down the line in this bracket. I will have Xavier beating Texas. I find Xavier to be a much more reliable team. And not only that, I will have Xavier moving along to beat Illinois in a very good head coaching matchup there. I have Kentucky getting past Troy without too much of resistance. Mark Pope going to get his first NCAA tournament win later this week. And then as for the bottom portion of the bottom right of your bracket in the Midwest region, I've got Utah State over UCLA. I do think that the Mountain West is going to show itself relatively well in this tournament. And then Tennessee shouldn't have too much trouble against Wofford. That one, honestly, that feels like a comfortable 18, 20-point win to me overall. As we scoot on back up, let's look at the teams that I think are going to make it to the second weekend and into the regional semis in the Midwest. Houston Gonzaga could be phenomenal. And I mean phenomenal. It could be one of the 4 or 5 best games of the entire tournament. I will go with Houston. It is the better team. Gonzaga has come up short often this season against some of the best teams it has faced. I'll have Houston moving along, and then I will have Purdue beating Clemson. Hakeem, this was one of the toughest second-round calls I have in my entire bracket. I will go with Purdue to get to the second weekend, and doing so a year removed, of course, of making it all the way to the national title game. There is no Zach Edey, but guess what? There's still a first-team All-American on that roster. His name is Braden Smith. Bottom half of the bracket. Xavier versus Kentucky. Sean Miller versus Mark Pope. A lot of fun potential here. I will go with Kentucky. It's got the better overall roster, but Ryan Conwell, if you told me he averaged 31.5 points through 2 games for Xavier in this tournament, I would believe you instantly. I have Tennessee beating Utah State with Jemai Mashak and Zakai Ziegler leading the way. Chaz Lanier, obviously also a very, very good player and the big shot maker for them. I like Tennessee to move along, and that means, yes, we have an SEC rematch going down. It's going to be inevitable when you've got 14 teams from that league on the board. And then as we look at who's going to play in the Elite Eight, no Final Four teases here for me. I only gave you one. That's all you get. I will have Houston moving along to Purdue, beating Purdue, and then I will have Kentucky over Tennessee, offense beating defense. And I'm making this specifically because I think if Lamont Butler is healthy enough, they've got the depth, they've got the style of play, I will trust Kentucky to get it done this season. They've been a good team that's beat a lot. They've been a good team that's beat a lot of good teams. And when these teams met earlier this season, Kentucky and Tennessee, they lost both of them. I'm going for the Kentucky three-peat over the Vols this year.
Matt Norlander just put on a bracket clinic right there.
I love it, man.
He filled out his bracket all the way to the Elite Eight in under 10 minutes right there. Sometimes people pour hours over their bracket. Who am I going to pick? Am I going to pick a logo? Am I going to pick a mascot? Matt just gave you a ton of insight right there to pick your bracket, and he's about to give you a ton of insight on the latest edition of the Eye on College Basketball podcast.
It's one of the best shows every year. Gary Parrish and I, we're doing an overnight Selection Sunday recap. This is the show to listen to for instant reaction, our thoughts, our intel. We have a blast. You can find it wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, the whole deal. We will have you covered. Anything you're thrilled about, you're furious about, I promise you, we're going to touch on every single point of this bracket. I can't wait. Download, subscribe, find us right now.
Bracket games live now, CBS Sports app and cbssports.com/bracket. Just scan that QR code, it'll take you right there. Sign up, printable brackets, play with your friends, join big leagues all around the country. It's all right there for the men's and the women's side. But we're going to focus on the men. What?
The men's and the women's side?
The men's and the women's, yes, the men's and the women's. Amanda Guerra, woman. Gary Parrish, mans. Chris Hassel, mans. Let's fill out a bracket, Gary, starting in the South region where Auburn is the #1 overall seed.
Yeah, obviously, I don't really care who wins that first 4 game that'll be played later tonight. I will take Auburn to win in the round of 64 and advance to the round of 32, where I'll have them playing Louisville. Obviously, most 8-9 games are going to be competitive by nature, but Louisville is only playing 70 minutes from its campus inside Rupp Arena in Lexington. I think that's going to be enough to give them an advantage over the Blue Jays. I'll take Louisville to advance. Michigan coming off of a Big Ten tournament title. I'll take Dusty May into the round of 32. And then Texas A&M, they've got those really good guards, most notably Wade Taylor IV, Bud Williams team gets past Yale into the round of 32. I've got Ole Miss, Chris Beard's Rebels, advancing into the round of 32, regardless of who wins, San Diego State, North Carolina. And then I've got Iowa State. I do not love that Keyshawn Gilbert has been ruled out of this NCAA tournament. He's obviously an important part of that team, but I'll still take Iowa State to at least get to the round of 32. I've got Marquette over New Mexico. Terrific guard matchup there. Cam Jones, as you know, my little homie from Memphis, has been a star up at Marquette for 4 seasons. Love seeing him finish his college career with a deep tournament run. I think he will at least get that first round win. And then I've got Michigan State over Bryant. Going back up to the top, I've got Auburn getting past Louisville. I don't think that the Tigers should be having to play a team 70 miles from its own campus in the round of 32, given that Auburn is the #1 overall seed. I feel like the committee did them wrong here, but they're still good enough, despite the way they've been playing lately, to get past Louisville in Lexington. I've got Auburn over Louisville. I've got Michigan getting past Texas A&M. Ole Miss over Iowa State. I think that's where the Keshawn Gilbert injury starts to show up. Michigan State past Marquette. So I've got Auburn and Michigan in the Sweet 16. Obviously, the SEC champs against the Big Ten tournament champs. I will take Auburn to get past Michigan. I'll take Ole Miss to get past Michigan State. That would obviously be an upset. And I would have two SEC schools in the Elite Eight of that South region. Auburn against Ole Miss.
Don't worry, Gary. I've written it all down by hand, so I've advanced everybody. You did a great job, by the way, moving through that.
I was going to say, not even being able to see the graphics right there. He did a phenomenal job.
We're good.
Let's head to the West region here. You got Florida is the #1 seed there. As I mentioned earlier in the show, I will be jumping on the Florida bandwagon for this tournament here. Also back-to-back defending champs, UConn, who took a while to get going, but they are certainly going now, Gary. Reveal this one for us.
Florida, I'm not going to pick them to lose a 1-16 game. The Gators are coming off an SEC tournament championship. They are second at KenPom right now. They should obviously cruise in a 1-16 matchup. Let's advance them. I've got UConn over Oklahoma. I think this is a nice reset place for Dan Hurley, his staff, and his roster. I apologize.
You're not really an Oklahoma basketball fan, are you?
Let the man speak, Chris.
You just booed him.
It's fine. Keep going, Gary.
Amanda was the booer. I got UConn over Oklahoma, and I think this is a nice reset spot for Dan Hurley and his staff and his roster. They've been chasing rankings and quad 1 wins and everything since going 0-3 in Maui. Now none of that stuff matters anymore. They're just playing a bracket that they have navigated quite well over the previous 2 seasons. Obviously, different cast of characters, but I do think UConn can get past Oklahoma in that round of 64. I've got my alma mater, Memphis, getting past Colorado State, but I do not like what I'm hearing about Tyrese Hunter and his foot. Memphis expected to make an official announcement about Tyrese Hunter at some point soon, but nothing I'm hearing suggests that he is likely to play in that game. Still, I'll take the Tigers, led by P.J. Haggerty, to advance. I've got Maryland moving into the round of 32. Drake over Missouri in what would be an upset. Ben McCollum, big name on the coaching carousel right now. Missouri has lost 4 or 5 entering Selection Sunday. I'll take Drake to get past them. Texas Tech over UNCW. I've got Kansas over Arkansas. High-profile matchup. Bill Self, John Calipari in the round of 64. I'll take the Jayhawks, preseason #1, to get past the Arkansas team that's been better but never really great. And then St. John's and Rick Pitino also advancing into the round of 32. You circle back up. I've got that Florida-UConn matchup. This is where the Huskies' quest to be back-to-back-to-back champs officially ends. Florida over UConn. I've got Memphis over Maryland. P.J. Haggerty named a second-team AP All-American today. Keep an eye on him. He plays in the AAC, so maybe not a lot of people have seen him, but he has been a terrific guard this season. Big-time scorer. Memphis over Maryland. I've got Texas Tech getting past Drake. I've got St. John's getting past Kansas. In the Sweet 16, it would be Florida and Memphis. I've got the Gators over the Tigers. And then I've got St. John's getting past Texas Tech to set up an Elite 8 matchup in that West region between Florida and St. John's. That would be #1 versus #2 in the West region.
Okay, we're taking you up to the Elite 8 right now, and then Gary's going to tell us who his champion is and how the Final Four goes and all that. But let's go up to the East region now, Gary, where the Duke Blue Devils, not only are they the odds-on favorite, but Sportsline has Duke winning this tournament almost 1 out of every 4 simulations.
Yeah, regardless of whether Cooper Flagg is in uniform or not on Friday, I suspect Duke has no problems in the round of 64. Let's put them in the round of 32. Well, they'll be waiting on the winner of Mississippi State Baylor. I'll take the Bulldogs in that one. Chris Jan's team advances to the round of 32. I've got Oregon over Liberty. I've got Arizona advancing. VCU over BYU in a matchup of letters, I guess. Wisconsin, I've got getting past Montana. I've got St. Mary's getting past Vanderbilt, and Alabama advancing as well. Go back up to the top. I'm going to put Duke past Mississippi State. I'm going to put Arizona past Oregon. VCU over Wisconsin would be a big upset, a Big Ten power getting knocked off by the A-10 regular season co-champs and the A-10 tournament champs. I've got VCU into the Sweet 16. I've got Alabama also joining them in the Sweet 16. And so then the Sweet 16 is Duke, Arizona, VCU, and Alabama. I've got Duke advancing. I've got VCU getting past Alabama. A-10 tournament champs. I'm a believer in that team. I've seen them a lot. They've got power conference players in a non-power conference. Not enough to get past Duke, but enough to get to the Elite Eight. Duke and VCU playing with a chance to go to the Final Four in the East Region Final.
Love them.
Okay, all right, I see it. I do have a copy of this here, so I'm cheating. Gary, I've also not filled out my bracket, so I will be using this. So let's go to the final region here, Midwest here. You have Houston here as the #1 seed. They have won more games than any school in the past 2 seasons. And excuse me, looking at me, some upsets if you call them it, but it doesn't look like anything massive.
I don't see Houston having any problems early on. SIUE has been tremendous under Brian Baroni. It's a great story, but Houston should have no problems there. I've got Gonzaga getting past Georgia to keep their streak of Sweet 16 appearances alive, at least temporarily. Clemson over Will Wade, the Clemson graduate. Clemson moves on to the round of 32. Purdue past High Point. Illinois past Texas and Xavier winner. Whoever wins it, I'll take Illinois to advance. Kentucky over Troy. Utah State past UCLA. Tennessee, obviously, over Wofford. Go back up to the top. I'm going to have Houston beating Gonzaga, and that means the Zag streak of Sweet 16 appearances, remarkable. 9. It should end there. I've got Clemson getting past Purdue. I've got Illinois getting past Kentucky. I just think the injury stuff at some point is going to be too much for Mark Pope's program to deal with. And then Tennessee over Utah State. So in the Sweet 16, we would have Houston over Clemson. I will take Kelvin Sampson's Cougars to eliminate Clemson. And then I've got Tennessee over Illinois, setting up an Elite Eight matchup between the Houston Cougars and Rick Barnes, Tennessee Vols.
Okay, so going into the Elite Eight, had an opportunity here for a all 4 1-seed Final Four. Amanda, that hasn't only happened once, and it happened way back in 2008. One time. 2008, that's when the Kansas Jayhawks won it all. Gary, take us through here as you get to your national championship.
I do have Auburn beating Ole Miss. Chris Beard has done a remarkable job turning Ole Miss into a nationally relevant program in year 2, but those are just 2 different caliber of basketball teams, I think. I'll take Auburn to get to the Final Four for the 2nd time under Bruce Pearl. I've got St. John's beating Florida. I know Florida is a lot of people's trendy Final Four pick, even national championship pick right now, and I'm not here to argue against it. The Gators have obviously been great. St. John's was never going to have the resume stuff to get in the top seed conversation. They just weren't going to have the quadrant 1 wins that Auburn or Florida had. But St. John's is your outright Big East champions, Big East tournament champions, coached by an all-time great, got the Big East Player of the Year, elite defensively, and coming out of the conference that has provided the sport with our past 2 national champions. They check a lot of boxes. Obviously, it'd be a wonderful story to have Rick Pitino at the Final Four. I'm going to predict that he's going to get there. Duke, VCU in the East Regional Final. This is where I think the dream ends for the Rams. Duke and Cooper Flag on to San Antonio. And then I've got Houston getting past Tennessee. So I've got a Final Four, 3 #1 seeds, and then the 2 seeds, St. John's, out of the West region.
What? Why are you sighing so much?
No, I just, it's...
Tell Gary why you're sighing.
Gary is
what
in midweek bracket form. He really is. I mean, he's in much better form than we are here, I think. How many times have you done this, Gary?
I don't know what I've done, how many times, or where I've done it, or what I've said. I just keep putting in AirPods and saying, ask me something. Just ask me something, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability.
I have a question for you, because I feel like a lot of fans filling out their brackets this week are scared of a few teams, Auburn in particular, because of the way they closed the season. Why do you think that they are going to rebound and regain who they were a few weeks ago?
Totally fair point. I understand the skepticism. Auburn did lose 3 of 4 going into the NCAA tournament, and quite literally no team has ever won an NCAA tournament after losing 3 of its 4 previous games. So history is not on Auburn's side. But Chris, Amanda, I think I can explain where it is that things got twisted up a little bit for Auburn. You know when it was? The second that they wrapped up the outright SEC title, the second that people like me started going on TV and podcast and saying Auburn could lose every game between now and Selection Sunday and still be the #1 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. The second that their coach went on TV and said, we feel like we've locked up everything or something close to that. It's natural to then let your foot off the gas, so to speak, at some point. When people are already telling you you've accomplished everything you can accomplish so far, now we look forward to the NCAA tournament where we're going to be the #1 overall seed no matter what happens going forward. Then you slip up and you lose to Texas A&M. And then you expect to bounce back and beat Alabama, but then, you know, it's a top 10 team and they catch you. And then Florida is second at Ken Palm and they catch you. So I know that they did lose 3 of 4, but it was 3 games to top 4 seeds in this NCAA tournament, 3 losses to teams in the top 20 of the net, and 3 losses that came after they were told you don't really have anything to play for anymore. I think this is a wonderful place for Bruce Pearl to reset his entire roster. All right, remember when I told you we were good? That's over. We can't lose anymore. We could afford to take losses and still get a 1 seed, even the #1 overall seed. We cannot lose anymore. Let's get back to who we were. I can't promise you they will, but I won't be surprised if they do.
Yeah, they were clearly the #1 team in the country up until they clinched that SEC championship and the #1 overall seed.
Turn off your phones. Like Rich Rod is banning TikToks. You know, if I'm Bruce Pearl, I'm just saying turn off your phones for the rest of the tournament.
No more dancing on TikTok. Can we make that a rule for everybody of all ages?
You're going to have to talk to people that we work with.
Gary, thank you so much. Join our bracket games on the CBS Sports app and cbssports.com/bracket. It's free. Might as well join.
Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ. It is bracket week, and we have got a fun bracket on deck. Our own coach, Avery Johnson, has put together his bracket, and the road to the Final Four goes through the SEC. I don't want to give away any spoilers because he's going to break it down, but chomp chomp. That'll be your deep tease for you. Avery Johnson joining us now ahead of his bracket reveal. Avery, I'm not going to lie, your bracket's a little bonkers, so let's go through it. We're going to get started in the South bracket, where we see the first surprise of your tournament up there in the upper right. The #1 overall seed Auburn Tigers taking on Alabama State. They advance to play Louisville, and you have Auburn actually getting upset in this round. So I want to start right there. Tell us more about why you think Louisville is going to take down the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, I like what Pat Kelsey's done with this Louisville team. What a great turnaround. He's like a turnaround specialist. I think this team is really underseeded in a lot of ways. They should be like a 5th seed. I like the way they ended the season. Chucky Hepburn, 16 points a game, 5.8 assists. I think I like this team more of a balanced team. And Auburn's fact of the matter is they've been struggling. And then you never can really depend on Chad Baker-Mazar. He's gotten technical fouls, been thrown out of games at the wrong time. Louisville, remember, this is going to be a home game for them, basically, in Lexington, about 60 miles away from Louisville. So Auburn's not playing that great. They're not going to be challenged in that first game against Alabama State. I think they're favored by 31 points. But I like the way Louisville's playing overall. And the home court advantage is going to be a major factor as to why I think Louisville is going to advance.
I put you on the spot there a little bit, Avery. I got excited because that result got me a little bit excited there. We're going to move down the bracket, though. We'll get back to that in just a minute. Let's talk about this round here where you have Michigan taking on Texas A&M. Tell us a little bit more about that matchup.
Yeah, I think this would be a terrific matchup here. I love this Michigan team. I think the size, 2 big guys, 7-footers on the front line. I think they're going to basically overwhelm Texas A&M. Texas A&M really struggles. Buzz Williams' teams really struggle to score, especially in the half court. I like what Dusty May. I saw Dusty May up close and personal when he was coaching at Florida Atlantic. I think he's one of the top coaches in the country. So I really like the size, the shooting ability, the three-point ability by Michigan in this game to advance.
All right, moving down, still in that second round, talking New Mexico facing Michigan State here. I guess I'm moving a little bit different on the bracket, but we're talking about New Mexico getting the win here. They're facing Michigan State. What do you like about this matchup?
Yeah, New Mexico, I've covered them this year for CBS Sports Network. Donovan Dent is an outstanding player, one of the top point guards in the country, but I think this is going to be too much Michigan State. Time Izzo, obviously they didn't like how the Big 12 tournament ended, but I like Michigan State here. I don't think New Mexico has enough size inside to match up with Michigan State.
Moving down the bracket, as we go back up to the top here, we already talked about Auburn and Louisville. So you like Louisville advancing out of that, upsetting the #1 overall seed. When we talk about the 5 and the 4 with Michigan and Texas A&M, Avery, what do you like?
Yeah, I definitely like Michigan here. I think they're going to advance, and then I like Michigan. When you have a well-balanced team like this, and when you can throw the ball inside, that's the great neutralizer for teams, to have that inside-out game. And I think Michigan's one of the best inside-out teams in all of the NCAA tournament. So I like Michigan.
So Michigan moves on there as we take a look at Ole Miss taking on Iowa State. We have Ole Miss advancing there. New Mexico, we just had Mike O'Donnell break down one of their key players taking on Michigan State, Avery, but you have Michigan State coming out of that bracket.
Yes, definitely. I like Michigan State here. Time Izzo, one of the things is, he's been such an outstanding coach for a long time. His teams tend to peak at the right time, and I think they'll continue to peak. This will be the end of a run for Coach Chris Beard and Ole Miss, as I have a rematch of that game where Michigan didn't really like Michigan State kissing the floor on senior night. They had a little bit of a problem there. But I think Michigan State's going to be kissing the floor again, because I have them advancing to the Final Four and beating Michigan for the 3rd time this year.
So we get one of the first halves of our Final Four there out of the South. You like Michigan State winning the battle of the state of Michigan there. And Michigan State will advance to play in the Final Four. So now let's go down to the bracket, continuing to go. We start with, of course, Florida and Norfolk State. No issue there for Florida, as you have them advancing. UConn taking on Oklahoma. UConn gets the nod there, so the reigning champs, Avery, get a win in that opening round.
Yeah, this is just going to be based on experience. Coach Dan Hurley, he said he's the best coach in basketball. So they're going to be playing against, one of the teams from the SEC. The SEC obviously had 14 teams, which is a record, make it to the tournament. This was one of the bottom dweller teams, Oklahoma, in the SEC for Porter Moser. But I have, definitely UConn with the experience advancing here to play Florida.
Oklahoma trying to keep that SEC powerhouse conference rolling, but you have them losing. As we move down the bracket further, we see Memphis beating Colorado State, Maryland beating Grand Canyon. Down as we continue moving down, the SEC will stand strong against Drake, as the number 6 seed Missouri will advance to take on Texas Tech. Here's where things get interesting, though, Avery, because we've got a coaching battle of the century there between Kansas and Arkansas, and you like Arkansas. Coach Cal coming out of that matchup there. They'll be facing St. John's and Rick Pitino's squad. Tell us more about Arkansas.
Yeah, obviously this was tough with Hunter Dickinson from Kansas, but I think, again, Arkansas started the SEC 0-5, and they finished, 8-10 in the toughest conference in basketball. They were injured. They didn't play well, but I think Coach Cal found something there at the end of the season. They're playing much better basketball. So, yes, I have them beating Kansas to advance.
Tough year for Kansas, but they always find a way to bounce back. All right, moving on here for the Sweet 16, Florida and UConn, and that is where the reigning champs will end there, as Florida gets the nod over them. And then how about Memphis, Avery? In your bracket, you've got them getting a little bit of the upset there, the 5 seed taking down Maryland. Why do you believe in the Tigers in this game?
Yeah, what a job Penny Hardaway's done with this Memphis Tigers team. And when you have guards that have the ability to score 40 points, being inside, Deja being inside to be able to play inside out. I love this Memphis team. He changed his coaching staff. He finally found the right mix. He's changed the staff, I think, 3 out of the last 4 years. So I love the way Memphis is playing and how they dominated the American Conference, American Athletic Conference. But they're going to be coming up against a Florida team who I'm really excited about.
Yeah, we'll get there in just a minute. Before we do, let's continue the SEC talk. Missouri, big upset here, taking down Texas Tech in this matchup. They'll face St. John's. I want to talk to you about Missouri here. What makes you believe in the Tigers over Texas Tech?
Well, what another turnaround for this team. This team didn't even win a game last year in conference. And the speed, the defense, they're going to need it against this St. John's team. But I love the way Missouri finished the season. They lost to Florida there in the tournament. But I like the way Missouri's playing right now.
All right, back to those Florida Gators, where you said you were high on them, high enough to take down Memphis. And they will face St. John's here. I like this matchup, Avery. This is actually what I have in my bracket down here in this region. But tell us a little bit more about what you're thinking about this matchup.
Yeah, obviously, Rick Pitino, Coach of the Year in the Big East. His son was Coach of the Year in the Mountain West. This team is outstanding, St. John's, defensively. They struggle to score the basketball. But you're going up against a Florida team that won at Auburn, at Alabama. They win the SEC championship. This is the most balanced team in basketball. The high grade of efficiency on both the offensive and defensive end, size, versatility. I think they have the entire package.
So it is Florida winning the West. They will take on Michigan State in the Final Four on the left side of the bracket. Let's go over to the right side of the bracket up in the East. Avery, I'm interested here because on my copy of your bracket, there was a little bit of indecision there between Baylor winning versus Mississippi State. So kind of walk us through who's going to play Duke here in this opening round for you.
Yeah, this was a tough one. This was one of the toughest games, and I had Baylor early in the season. I think, their guard play is going to overwhelm Mississippi State a little bit. Multiple ball handlers, Coach Scott Drew. They had an up-and-down season. I think they're one of the stronger 9 seeds that's going to be left in the tournament. So I think they're going to make a few more threes than Mississippi State. Mississippi State on their front line, their big guys really don't stretch the floor. So I think that's going to be problematic for them against Baylor.
So we get a Duke, Baylor. You like Oregon taking down Liberty and Arizona taking down Akron. No surprises there. Both of those teams have had great seasons to this point. And then we talk about BYU, VCU, Wisconsin, Montana. God bless the Grizzlies. I used to cover them in my first TV job. But we're going to look at the top of this bracket here between BYU and VCU. Avery, what do you like?
Yeah, I like BYU here. VCU, I like VCU. I like VCU. When you look at VCU,
we had a tough time reading your handwriting there, Avery. So do you like VCU or do you like BYU? And tell us why either way.
Well, I actually like BYU.
BYU,
so maybe that was a little bit of confusion on my handwriting because they're older team. I love the way that they can knock down the three-point shot. They struggled obviously against teams like Houston, but in this matchup, I think they make a few more threes than VCU.
All right, so anytime we see VCU on here, we'll know that you meant BYU. They get to take on Wisconsin there as we move down. You like St. Mary's taking down Vanderbilt, so another SEC team out of there. Alabama, meanwhile, on the other side, pretty easily handling Robert Morris to advance in that bracket. So now we go back up. Duke, Arizona. Duke, you like the Blue Devils. No surprises there. They're the number 1 team in the country. We'll have to see, or the number 1 seed, I should say, in this bracket. We'll have to see if we get Cooper Flagg back. Elsewhere down that line, Wisconsin taking on St. Mary's. And you have Wisconsin winning this one, Avery.
Yeah, Wisconsin, this is the team that made 12 threes in the first half in that Big Ten Conference Tournament Championship. They ended up making about 18 threes. So I love the teams that can, that got size, but that can play on both ends of the floor. That's the key. You can be a really good three-point shooting team, but can you get enough stops? And I think Wisconsin will get enough stops to go along with that three-point shooting.
The key with St. Mary's there is that you have them upsetting Alabama, so I kind of glazed over that. That's huge there. But you have Wisconsin advancing, so it's Wisconsin taking on Duke. And I'm going to ruin the spoiler here. Duke making it back to the Final Four for you, Avery.
Absolutely. Cooper Flagg will be back. I doubt if he plays in his first game, but from there on, I think Cooper Flagg is dominant with arguably, in my opinion, one of the top 4 teams in the country.
So we've got 3 of our Final Four, Florida, Michigan, Duke, the latest out of the East to head to the Final Four. So let's tackle our last region here, the Midwest, where we'll see Houston take on SIU Edwardsville. Houston getting the win there. They'll face Gonzaga in the second round. Moving down the bracket there, we see Clemson taking on McNeese. I know a lot of fans like McNeese and their manager, but you like Clemson to win that game. The surprise on the other side of this, though, Avery, Purdue being upset by the 13 seed High Point there. What makes you believe in High Point?
Yeah, again, it's not as much as I believe in High Point as I don't believe in Purdue. I think, from an offensive standpoint, this team is going to struggle to score. I think High Point is going to be one of the surprises. The way they finished this year, I think they'll get, in this particular game against Purdue, they'll have 4 players in double figures. They'll win a close one. I think this game is going to be similar to how Alabama State won in the first 4.
Moving down the bracket, we will see Texas advancing over Xavier in that first 4, so they'll face Illinois and beat Illinois in your bracket to take on Kentucky, who takes down Troy, the Sun Belt champions. And then in the bottom of that region, Utah State getting the upset over UCLA to face Tennessee. Let's go back up to the top, talking Houston and Clemson. Clemson, other than Duke, really one of the better teams in the ACC this year. Avery, how do we see this matchup playing out?
Yeah, again, Houston, just from a defensive standpoint, and they're a much better three-point shooting team this year. When you look at the job that Kelvin Sampson has done with Houston, we all know about their defense, but it's their three-point shooting, small rotation. This team really suffocates you on the defensive end. Congratulations to assistant coach Quanez White, who got the head coaching job at Louisiana Lafayette last week. So, yeah, Houston, this is their year. Remember last year, they got a major injury to their best player in the Elite 8. If they can stay healthy, I think they're going to have a special season.
Calling this the SEC wing of this bracket. You got 3 of the 4 teams in the SEC here, so it turns into a Kentucky-Tennessee shootout. So in the Elite 8 here, Avery, Houston, Kentucky, who's it going to be?
Yeah, I got Kentucky with the big upset over Tennessee here. I think Kentucky's going to get a couple of players back that's been injured. That's a good thing. They can really score the basketball. Tennessee have their moments where they struggle to score. And I just think Tennessee gets to a point right now at this point in the season where it's really hard for them to make enough shots. I think Kentucky's going to outscore them. It's going to be a shootout, but I have Kentucky advancing.
So you have Kentucky advancing, Houston winning the region. You said it. You thought it was Houston's year. So now as we take a look at your full Final Four, Avery, we've got Michigan State out of the South. We've got Duke out of the East, Florida out of the West, and Houston out of the Midwest. It sounds like a pretty good Final Four if you ask me, but I've got to ask the million-dollar question. Who is your national champion?
My national champion, Florida Gators.
Chomp, baby.
We're chopping from all the way back from San Antonio to Gainesville, Florida. This is the most complete team in basketball. Young coach who came over from San Francisco. This team has some major wins. They can play different styles of basketball. They can play fast. They can play slow. This team is deep. The size overwhelms. people, their opponents. So I really love I love this Florida team, and I think they're going to be your national champions.
Well, I tell you what, Avery, you just made a lot of people here at CBS Sports HQ very happy. We've got a lot of proud Florida alum here in the building. Thanks for working through me with that, Avery. Good stuff as always, and we look forward to seeing how your bracket plays out. Of course, it's bracket time, so get your bracket in now on the CBS Sports app. You can play in a pool with friends and join our men's and women's challenges for your chance to win a new SUV and trips to the 2026 Final Four. You can get the CBS Sports app or visit cbssports.com/brackets to play now.
We're going to fill out another bracket right now, or I guess our friend is. Pete Prisco is going to join us, and I'm telling you, this guy, we know him as the NFL guy. I don't know anyone who watches more sports than Pete Prisco.
It's very true.
I'll be calling a random Conference USA game some night, and Petey be like, yeah, I caught you on the game last night. Good job, Pete. You love men's college basketball, don't you?
Well, I do at this time of the year. I think as we get to this time of the year, the game becomes much better. I will say this, I think at times it's way overcoached, I'll be honest with you. Having been around the sport and having covered it back in the day for CBS, we used to go to all the regionals and all the sub-regionals. I used to go every year, and I thought the game was always overcoached because the coaches are the stars. But that's a whole nother aside. I love March Madness. It's great. I've loved it since I was a kid. Filled out brackets way back in the day, and now I'm filling out one here, and I think I got a winner on my hands.
Let's take a look at your bracket and going region by region, beginning in the South. That's where the #1 overall seed Auburn is. We're just going to highlight a couple of things. Why do you like Yale to win another first-round game? They did it last season as a 13 seed.
If you watch Yale play, man, they can score, and I think they're always one of those teams that can shoot the basketball very well. And look, the Ivy League is not a joke. We've seen teams come out of the Ivy League and win first-round games. It happens a lot. They can all shoot. They're well coached. They move the basketball. And teams, you know what they do when they face those Ivy League teams? They look at them and they go, oh, no, we're going to have a problem here. Next thing you know, the ball's whipping around the perimeter and they're shooting threes in their face, and that's why I think Yale will advance.
Iowa State to the Elite Eight. Are you aware they're without Keyshawn Gilbert?
Yeah, but again, this is a deep team, Chris. You know that. That team has a lot of players, and they will run and jump and get after you and press you and everything else. I love the way they play the game. I know he's not there, but I think there's enough there to help them get to the Elite Eight. I think they're well coached. I like that team.
But Auburn coming out of the South region, Amanda.
Pete, let's jump over to the West here, and I'm just going to jump ahead to the Sweet 16. And look, you're high on Maryland. So many people are. Our producer Noah says he has them going to the Final Four there. And you have a 1 seed of Florida, your first one dropping out of this at the hands of Maryland.
I love this Maryland team. I mean, look, if you look at them, they got the big guy in Queen. They're well coached by Willard, who is, by the way, a New York guy, had some experience under Rick Pitino. That guy knows how to coach. This guy knows how to coach. They will press. They will get after it. And when you have a big player like Queen who can dominate a game, you can do that. Plus, their point guard transferred in from Belmont, good player. That's a good team all the way around, depth and a really good coach.
And Maryland getting to the Final Four, beating Texas Tech in Pete's Elite Eight, winner of the West. Let's go to the East, where Duke is the favorite to win it all. Pete, pretty chalky, except for BYU making a run.
Again, when you watch them play, good, big guys that can shoot the basketball, and you look at them and they're well coached, they move the ball around. All these teams that, you go into the tournament and everybody says, oh, well, I don't know if they can make a run. If you play good defense, you pass the ball, and you can make shots in the NCAA tournament, you will make a run. It's that simple. We know guards are important in the tournament. Their guards are good. They're talented. I look for BYU to make a little bit of a run.
Going over to the Midwest, Pete, and then we're going to jump over to your Elite Eight, Final Four, and stuff like that. As Chris said, similar to the last region, pretty chalky here. I think your only upset is Utah State over UCLA, and other than that, you have Houston riding out through the whole thing.
Yeah, I love this Houston team. And again, at times they're boring to watch. Let's be real. I mean, they pass the ball around. They work on the shot clock. They play really good defense. Kelvin Sampson does a great job of coaching those guys to play exactly the way he wants them to play. But when defense wins at times in the tournament, and I think that we've seen that take over. This group is talented as well. I think the point guard's really good. They will get after you on defense, and I think that's ultimately the biggest difference. Kelvin Sampson has that team playing exactly the way he wants it to play. When you play them, it's going to be ugly. They're going to muck it up, and they're going to make it real tough on your offensive game plan.
Yeah, I think they're one of the teams being overlooked. They've got the, I think, the 4th shortest odds to win the NCAA tournament, but all 3 other 1 seeds are ahead of them in those odds. As we get into Pete's Final Four, 3 1 seeds in that 4 seed Maryland, you have them making the national championship against Duke.
Yeah, and look, to win these things in these pools that I enter, you know, you got to have a little bit of take a chance on a team, and Maryland's my chance team. And I know they're not that deep of an underdog. They're not a real low seed, but I think they have a real chance with that Queen kid in the middle. He can dominate at times, and we've seen that. And again, good New York coach. Good New York coach. And when you look at Duke, I mean, come on. They got the best player in the country. He's going to be the 1st overall pick in the NBA draft. He went against the NBA players last year, and every single one of them raved about him when he was in high school. That's how good that kid is. He's Dirk Nowitzki, maybe a little bit more athletic. He's going to be a great NBA player. And by the way, the other kid, the other freshman, Kneppel, he can shoot the heck out of the basketball and is going to be a high pick as well. So they're loaded. Duke will win it all, but Maryland's going to be right there with them.
We're going to have Pete do one of our NBA mock drafts a little bit later in the show as well.
No, we're not going to. Okay, Pete, I have a question really quickly. So for tomorrow, what is your setup? How are you going to watch these games? Are you doing multiple screens? What do you do?
I'm a flicker. I'm the mad flicker. I can flick back and forth. I mean, I'm outstanding at it. ADD, you know, all those problems I have. I can watch 18 things at once and still flick back and forth. So I will be the mad flicker. And by the way, my picks here, they can't be any worse than my NFL picks this season, so I got something going for me, right?
I think these are going to be better. I think these will be better. We're going to ride with your bracket instead of your NFL picks.
Pete Prisco, the mad flicker.
Yeah, no, we're already clipping that off.
Who calls changing channels flicking?
Well, Pete, he's from like 1920, right? When they invented the remote. Coming up, Aaron Rodgers, he's got to find a home or make a decision. We're going to talk about it coming up.